Only a politician as out of touch with reality as Donald Trump could claim this week's midterm elections in the US were a tremendous success. Given that his party lost control of the House of Representatives and that the young, women and ethnic minority voters came out significantly against him, it's a typical Trump statement. Ignore the facts, claim what you want, and hey presto, it's true. But no one should assume that this means Trump won't win again in 2 years' time. Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama all did badly at their midterms in their first term and went on to win a second presidential election. Having said that, I do think there's a good chance Trump will be a one-term president. And that's something we should all welcome. We all know he's a misogynist and a racist. Even his own lawyers, who quite rates him, said the real problem with Trump is that he's an effing liar. We can only hope these elections show the tide is turning against Trump for good.
Greg, just before I challenge you, let's tell you where we find ourselves at the time of taping of this show, to the House, where and we're looking for 218 for the majority. The Democrats are already posting 222, Republicans 199. So you're right, the House goes to the Democrats. But in the Senate, again at the time of recording, the Democrats 46, the Republicans 51. So Mr. Trump will obviously retain that. I think this is what intrigues me. People like you, and many people despise him intently. I wonder if there's been such a reviled president in recent years. You would have thought then, when this opportunity came, a nation the size of America was thirsting to give him at least a bloody nose, if something not even more painful for the bloke, because he's so out of touch with reality. Well, the reality is they didn't. They didn't. And in fact, if you look, as we said, at the Senate, he retains control there. There wasn't the blue wave that Hollywood said would be coming that way. It was, I give it, yes, it was a good night for the Democrats, but at best it's a score draw. Both sides can claim they actually had victory, and if he is such a bad president, I'm staggered he had anything to talk about the morning after.
I think score draw is wrong. I don't think it wasn't 6-0, that's for sure, to the Democrats. But if you actually look at the figures, the Democrats got 8% more votes out, people voting Democrat than voting Republican. If that had happened, and what you've got to do is compare the House of Representatives, because that was last elected 2 years ago, whereas the Senate was 6 years ago in a different time.
But he's meant to be Goebbels meets Pol Pot, isn't he, the way you paint him? How come he didn't get...
No, we know there's a base. We know he's got a base. We know that base will turn out for him, as it did. He campaigned much harder, to be fair, than any other US president in my lifetime.
Grant you that.
He obviously loves campaigning. That's what he likes doing. He loves those rallies and things.
And also, you can see the difference where he personally got involved with the campaign. Yeah, look at Ted Cruz's result. You know, there was a real surge because his support base is so strong versus places that he didn't. Which,
no, but I mean,
even when they won,
it would have been very supportive for the Republicans to have lost Texas.
But the Democrats didn't do as well as you're saying, because, you know, they did expect a blue wave, and the Democrats really thought this was going to be the time for a country being run by a maniac to look in the mirror, see what was there and say, we're going to get rid of this. But they didn't do that. And, it is not unusual to lose seats in the House of Representatives, but it is unusual to gain seats in the Senate. And they think he has actually gained seats. I mean, you mentioned 51. They think it could be as many as 54, so he will have gained 3, which is incredible, which will underline for Trump that his base is telling him that everything he's done is OK.
Yeah, but they're not... When you're looking at the Senate, you're not comparing this election with 2 years ago when he got elected. You're comparing it with 6 years ago, so it's a bit different.
You see, my spirit is with you, Greg, but my head is not, because the comparison here would be Obama in his first term lost 63 House seats.
Yes.
Clinton in his first midterm lost 52. I think the problem that people like you and me, who aren't in the same place as Trump, have is that actually we may be the ones who are out of touch with reality. He's actually winning, and the big thing that came out of the elections, I think, is not the numbers. It is that he now has complete control and loyalty of the Republican Party. Up until now, one of his weaknesses is that his own party didn't like him. Now, they don't like him anymore now, but they know that they have a winner, and they will line up behind him in 2020. And I frankly find it hard to see how he's going to be beaten because the Democrats, A, don't have a candidate.
That's right.
And B, they don't actually have the story, which is one of the reasons they didn't do well this time. What do the Democrats stand for?
Mine could just be wishful thinking.
What do the Democrats stand for?
Because there are some practical consequences. So having lost the House means that it's going to be harder for him to drive through a lot of his agenda now.
He loves this. Which plays to I'm stymied, I can't do this.
Exactly.
And that's why you had Nancy Pelosi
in 2020, he would use the House of Representatives as an excuse for everything he didn't get to do.
And if the economy, which is breaking all records now, if that goes down, which the predictions are, it is going to start failing. He can blame the House of Representatives for that because he's saying you're in charge of the money now.
There's no question Trump has narrative. His narrative has worked for him. We know that. But I think what's really interesting to look at, and I think you're right. I mean, I agree with you, Trevor, that I think there's a danger for us to do this kind of wishful thinking exercise, which we can't understand why anyone would vote for him, and then we interpret anything that shows other people don't like him as a kind of move in our direction.
I understand absolutely why people vote.
I know, I cerebrally understand it, Carol. I just can't personally relate to it, but I completely understand what's going on. I think that it's interesting to look at some of the trends. So, for example, yes, you know, he gained seats and he didn't lose as many in the House as some people thought he would. But it's interesting how the split is happening, how some Republican areas in suburbs have moved towards Democrat, how the rural-urban divide is really opening up. And I think that is going to be an interesting trend looking at the next election because he's dividing people in different ways. You know, he clearly has a very strong support, but it's not the traditional one. And I just want to add as well about some of the firsts that were achieved in this election. You know, a record number of women, of minority women, LGBTQ for the first time, Native American women being elected to the legislature. And I just want to show you from one of my favourite new elected Democrats, Ilhan Omar, because she is such an inspiring character.
I will stand strong with you. And as we fight to protect our immigrant families, our neighbors, our children, our planet, our communities, I promise to always have your back.
So for the first time, we have a Somali American who immigrated to the US as a teenager being elected. And I think that shows the split that's happening. You know, that someone like her would not have got elected 10, 15 years ago.
Attention from all of that at the end of yesterday, and Saxy's Attorney General. Yes. So this is the genius of Trump, if you like. This is what he does.
I will put my money where my mouth is. I will take £20 with each of you that actually Trump will not win next time.
Yeah, we've got to bet on something else as well. I mean, but I'll take that.
Well, you owe me for that one.
Oh, do I? Roll it. Yeah, because I think the key points here are, as I think, Trevor, I heard you agree, this is such a great narrative for him come the next election because he can just point to the table he's not been able to get anything through. And the other key, which I think carries you, name me the Democrat who's emerged that can beat him.
But you couldn't have named Trump 2 years before the last election.
Possibly.
No, we knew Trump was there. We just didn't believe he could win.
But he didn't believe he could win.
Isn't somebody going to show us how he's treating journalists since his election results?
That was
somebody. Come on.
You see, this is a good example. When the name Trump comes up, everybody falls into tribal position. Here's what happened at his press conference, and I'll talk about the reaction.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you...
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks...
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President...
That's enough. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this... Mr. President...
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
See, the media's now saying, oh, look at what he did. Actually, the truth of the matter is, Jim Acosta, they had a long time spat. Acosta broke the rules of the press conference. Yes. He should have had a question and a follow-up, and he would not surrender the microphone. And Trump, who is a boor and a vulgarian, was actually in the right here. Yes. That's our problem. We cannot get past our dislike of Trump to deal with things as they are.
He called him the enemy of the people.
So what?
Again, Trevor.
So what?
Okay.
This is the leader of the country.
Pledges from American matters to those that affect the entire world. This is the part of the show when we'd normally laugh at something or someone who's done or said something silly. But for once, we're going to be a lot more serious. This weekend marks the centenary of the end of the First World War, a conflict that took the lives of 17 million people. This special anniversary is being marked across the country and indeed the world, including at the Tower of London, where 10,000 torches are being lit every night this week in a tribute known as Beyond the Deepening Shadow. So, this week, we'll leave you with words you may well be familiar with, words not of our own, but which express our mood better than we ever could. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.